How can we see something that's not obvious? How can we visualize something that's not understandable? How can we see something that's not tangible? The impact technology has on our daily lives has become increasingly significant. Looking at topics like automation, where people fear their jobs being replaced. It is important for us to be able to reflect on this impact, as it's not becoming more impactful, it's also becoming more complex, invisible, intangible, harder for us to understand. Let's take an example of this. Let's talk about the medium of the music we listen to. Back then, we used to understand how our record players worked. We had a vinyl with some grooves and sending an analog signal through my needle, to my amplifier, and then to my speakers. Now, Spotify is generating playlists for me and recommending artists exactly to my likings. And this is not something necessarily bad. I find it quite useful that my algorithm knows what I like. Yet these same algorithms are becoming more obscure, more complex, harder for me to understand. French philosopher Bruno Latour said, "The way scientific and technological work made itself invisible. When a machine runs efficiently and matter of fact is settled, one can only focus on its inputs and outputs, and not on its intrinsic complexity. Thus, paradoxically, the more science and technology succeeds, the more opaque and obscure they become." And this is what we call the black box of technology, because we understand what the input is, the music I generally listen to, and we understand what the output is, the recommended playlist, or But the algorithm within, or the black box within, is not understandable. Even its own experts find it cannot comprehend it intrinsically. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's delve into the fields of artificial intelligence, where we witness a rapid change in our day-to-day lives. For example, the last 3 sentences I've been talking to you were generated by ChatGPT. Did you notice that? We find black boxing problematic, because if we cannot understand a part of it, or the process of it, we can never understand the whole. And in this way, it prevents us from questioning our relationship with these technologies. So, where do we find ourselves in this situation, and what exactly is our responsibility here? For us as individuals who make daily use of technologies, for us as technical students who actively contribute to the development of these technologies, or us as members of society who vote on politicians making regulations out of them. Therefore, we must ask the question, what are the implications of the lack of understanding of these technologies, and how can we imagine new solutions if we cannot comprehend the black box? And this is the question we asked ourselves a little over a year ago. And this is the urgency we respond to. Our answer is through art. Art can be the way we can draw people back in, because art is universal and art has no set language. Art can be understood regardless of your background. Let's take an example of this. Let's look at this work of Thijs Biersteker. In this work, you see on the one side daily applications like Zoom calls or Instagram. And on the other side, you see how much impact it has on the physical world. And you don't need the background in the specific numbers of how much megabytes are correlated to how much carbon dioxide. But in one visual or one installation, he shows what the impact is. This makes it a lot more tangible than any report or any IPCC report. Art can be used to stimulate discussion and provoke ethical questions. And as they say, art is the mirror of society, so why not also for our technical advancements? It can be used, and its power lies in the bridge between society and technology. See the unseen is not only the theme of today, it is our mission. It is a call into looking into new perspectives, looking beyond what's already there. My name is Angela Hanna, and I'm one of the co-founders and team manager of Dream Team Emergence Delft. And we are artists, designers, and engineers collaborating on the research and development of new experiences to facilitate an understanding of these complex technologies. And I want to welcome you this afternoon, as we are glad to have you with us. We want to show you our dedicated work of this last semester. And in a minute, I will talk a bit more about our team, what we do, and what our identity and approach is. Later, Lars and Lucas will tell you about our first project, Unseen Echoes. And later, followed by Suze and Milan, who will tell you more about Enclosed. But today is more than just showing you our final works. It's about showcasing our hidden process as well. So after the presentation, I want to invite you to go through our process exhibition with a drink. And at around 5:30, we can all walk to Highlight Delft, where we exhibit one of the two projects, Unseen Echoes, at the Delft station. So dear audience, I'm excited to showcase the dedicated work of our 36-headed team, who put tremendous effort into the first edition of these projects. Let's review the Unseen. Okay.
Last half year has been crazy.
Yeah, this past year, it's been amazing, to be honest. I've learned so much, and also seeing the projects grow, it's been a wonderful journey. Emergence is about connecting everything we learn at the TU Delft and showing it to everyone in our society and helping them understand what technologies are and how they influence our lives.
Whether you're a technical student or someone studying language or philosophy or anything, or in this case art,
it's really amazing to see how good the interdisciplinary work worked out.
A lot of challenges that you completely didn't expect to encounter.
I think from now on it can only grow even more.
And together you accomplish much greater things than you expect to do alone. Thank you all for really making me smile every day.
I've had 2 love story moments where I was just totally in love again with what we were doing, and that was, because of everyone.
So these were my 2 teammates, Joep and Finn, telling a bit more about our collaboration and how this last semester have been. And before I want to dive into what we exactly do and what our mythology and approach is, I first want to make sure that you all understand what the concept of emergence is. And to do so, I will use an analogy. Think of a single bird, able to fly from point A to B. One might say it's functional or effective. Now think of multiple birds flying together. In this flock formation, they now have improved their energy efficiency, making them able to fly longer distances. Something a lone bird could have never done. And not only that, but because the way they move relatively to each other, they now can protect themselves from predators. And this collective intelligence, that's what the concept of emergence is. In philosophy, system theory, science, and arts, emergence occurs when a complex entity has properties or behaviors its parts do not have on their own, and emerge only when they interact in a wider whole. And we draw inspiration from this phenomenon, not only in our values or team methods, but also in our logo. as the total is greater than the sum of its components. And this can also be read as a mathematical equation. And we draw, where was I? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we, as artists, designers, and engineers, work together on a mission to try to achieve emergence. And this mission is, we as Emergence combine art and technology to develop new artistic media and reflect on our ever more digital society. And in this mission, we dive into our values, our outputs, and the way we collaborate. And let's dive into them. So I already told you a bit about our values and the urgency we respond to. We need to reflect on the lack of understanding of these complex technologies. I also told you a little about how we see art as the ultimate tool to communicate these complexities. But the type of art we're talking about is not traditional like paintings or sculpting. We see that technological art can tell technological stories. Let's look at an example of this. This is a work of Firefly. And they use drones with a programmable light source. And they orchestrate it in these beautiful 3D structures. And using a new instrument like this in an artistic expression, that is what is called new media art, and is a great example of what combining art and technology can achieve. And in this example, the drone is the new medium they use, and the artistic expression, or the experience they created, is what is called new media art. And what we do with Emergence is we research and develop these new mediums, or media, and use them to create new media art that facilitate this understanding of complex technologies. And to actually do that, to actually develop these things and facilitate this understanding, we need the right people. So that's how we achieve that with working with the Royal Academy of the Arts in The Hague, with art students. And with them, we have a big variety of disciplines. Just look how colorful this graph is, or this. And in our team, a computer scientist can work with a fashion designer. And with them, we strive to work interdisciplinary, much like the birds from before, who adjust their position to achieve the best results. We too think you should be fluent in your role, putting the artist in the shoes of the engineer and the engineer in the shoes of the artist. And in this year, we had 16 different disciplines working on our projects, on the topics of our projects. And with all these different disciplines, you have all these expertise areas and insights specifically to these topics. Yes. Oh yeah. And yeah, we have a lot of disciplines and a lot of different disciplines, but we still see our team as united. And that's by the way we approach a topic. And that's through curiosity. Why do things the way they work, and how do things work exactly? These are questions both an artist and an engineer can ask at the beginning of their research. Artistic, scientific, and technological research are connected, and where we see ourselves united. And how are they connected, you might ask yourselves? We can see it in science fiction. Remember how in Star Trek they already had automatically opening doors already in the 60s, and a couple of years later they made that into a reality. We can draw inspiration of how artists already can speculate about technical advancements, and we need the engineering power to make science fiction into science fact. And as Emergence, we incorporate this. And how we do that is by the topic we choose to reflect on and the intersection of fields we start with. And this approach is where our strength lie, because our way of collaborating is essential to achieving this mission of creating impact. We, as Emergence, combine quality in conceptual thinking and technical expertise to create magic. And how this magic looks like will be told by Lars and Lucas, who will tell you more about our first of the two projects, Unseen Echoes.
Thanks, Angela, for the introduction. So I'm Lars. I'm the project manager of this year's new media project called Unseen Echoes. And already from its name, you can see that it ties in nicely with this theme of See the Unseen. And how, I will tell you more about it. And I will tell you a bit about the background of the project. And then Lucas, our chief fabrication, will tell you more about the new medium we created. So let's dive deeper into that. As Emergence, we reflect on the impact of technology on society. And as a new media project, we focused on one specific phenomenon. And that is that on the internet, it is increasingly hard to see what is real and what is fake. And maybe a few years ago, you still received an email from an African prince where they promised you millions of euros if you just transferred a small amount of money. But of course, this was quite easily to see that it was fake and not real. But already through advancements in AI, artificial intelligence, these kinds of scams have evolved into a new level. A few weeks back, a Hong Kong company was scammed out of 20 million euros because of a deepfake video call scam. A deepfake video is a video where artificially someone's likeness is copied onto a face in real time. So they could pretend to be someone else, and they were scammed out of 20 million euros. So already here, the advances in technology clearly make it harder to see what is real and what is fake on the internet. And this is not the only phenomenon where this happens. Also on social media, you have so-called social bots. And social bots are software agents that communicate autonomously on social media. That's maybe a bit hard, but you maybe know them as fake accounts. A few years back, they were primarily used to increase someone's popularity. Maybe you've heard about a celebrity who bought a few fake accounts so that it looked like they were way more popular than they actually are. And often these fake accounts copied real accounts, so it was quite hard already to see if they were real or not. But also this phenomena has advanced through the years. Currently, also through advances in AI, they are way more capable of mimicking real human behavior. And for example, Russia has used them to shape public online debate about the Russian-Ukraine war. It was unveiled also in the last few weeks that Germany found 50,000 accounts on Twitter, posting over 1 million tweets trying to influence public opinion on this topic. So we see how it's increasingly hard, how it has become increasingly hard to see what's real and what is fake, but how is this important for the future? Well, already in 2024, over half the world's population will have elections. Over 50 countries, a new government will be chosen. For example, in the United States, the important presidential elections will shape the world. So how can these social bots impact these developments and shape those elections? That is a conversation we urgently need to have, but also this topic is quite complex. So we wanted to work with this topic and make it a bit more approachable for people. So to summarize again, on the internet we are increasingly losing sight of what is real and what is not. And we recognize social media being a black box, as Angela already explained, where it's hard to see and differentiate between what is real and what is fake. And through our artwork, we try to separate again those real people and those fake people in the artwork by making an analogy, and that is that we relate the realness of an account or a real person to being visible and a fake person to being invisible. So we work with perception in the artwork and visibility and invisibility. And this theme of perception was already a big theme of the Highlight Delft Festival, which we quite quickly already came into contact with. the last 3 days this festival has been happening, and they have the theme, Do You See What I See? So that was quite naturally a nice match with our project, Unseen Echoes. Quite quickly, we came across the option of the station, which we really liked, not only because it's a place where a lot of people will see our work, but also because it was very closely related to our concept. I particularly remember yours, our concept chief, stating at one time, the station is the internet. We feel like it has very many similarities. There's so many, there's a large flow of people have small interactions, they're quite rushed, but also they are not really aware of what's happening around them, just on the go, and we feel like that related nicely to how we also browse social media, just uncritically, just scrolling, a bit mindlessly, and we felt this relation towards the station was a really nice fit. This was the spot that we got allocated, and I will not tell you precisely how our installation looks like, because that is best experienced in person, so please be invited to join us to Highlight Delft this evening, but I will tell you about some of the questions we try to evoke in this installation about social bots. So, are these technologies an aid or a threat? Is this phenomenon inevitable or controllable? And do you even care? Do you have a responsibility yourself, or is it somewhere outside of you? These questions are echoed and visualized through invisibility. And how, you may ask? That is something our chief fabrication, Lucas, will explain.
Thank you. Thank you, Lars. Seeing the unseen. Invisible technologies. This year's new media project built an infrared projector to reveal these invisible layers of technologies. Infrared light is light we cannot see. Most people might know it from heat, but actually, if you have a phone with Face ID, an infrared sensor flashes on you, like you see here, when Lars is opening his phone. Every time you're opening your phone, you get an interaction with infrared. For the new media project, we use infrared that is just outside of the visual spectrum, which is why you will still see a red glow in the installation at the station. So, using this invisible light, we can project something, just like we can do with invisible light. Just 1 month before the official start of Emergence 1, Lars and I switched the visible light source of an old overhead projector with an invisible light source, an infrared, near-infrared light source you can see here. And in this schematic, you can see how the optical components behave with the infrared light. So in the bottom, we see our infrared LED that then projects light onto a Fresnel lens that bends the light into the projection lens up here, that is then reflected on a projection surface or a wall. But between the Fresnel lens and the projection lens, there is an LCD. This is a liquid crystal display, and this gives the light a sort of a mask of something we want to project. So, combining all of these technologies, we needed to know if projecting in infrared actually worked, because on this scale, this had never been done before. So this was our proof of concept in the holiday, combining also a camera from Canon to view the infrared projection, and our overhead projector to actually project something. And when we turned it on for the first time, this is what we saw. Our first infrared projection and proof that the new media project was going to work. We proved that projecting in infrared was going to be possible. So we started the design of the first prototype. And by the end of the month, it was done and ready for testing. A few weeks, we tested thoroughly in the basement of the dream home to see what our newly developed technology was actually capable of. But after the testing of the third prototype, we needed to really scale it up, to put on the station a projector that could project from a far distance, a big, sharp projection that was also bright enough for the cameras to register. And that in just half a year, limited time, limited budget. We encountered a lot of problems when scaling it up to these criteria. And one of the problems was what we called the point source problem. And the point source problem is when you have a light source that is too big to be defined as a point. We used LEDs that are this big because there were actually none available on the market to us that were smaller than that. So I'm going to walk you through it a bit on how we solved this problem. Here you see a point reflecting a few of these light rays to lenses that bend them nicely, and our output is a sort of a spread out beam that can be used for a projection. But in reality, when we have a light source that is this big, we see that all these beams start interfering with each other, and it gets a bit chaotic. But actually, even closer to reality, we see a lot of chaos. Light coming out of the sides that is just lost and very negative for our brightness, sharpness of the projection. But actually, in reality, we don't see anything because we're projecting in infrared. But with our cameras, of course, you can see the projection. So, how did we solve this problem? Together with the Department of Optics on Applied Physics and 2 weeks of intensive research, we came up with the most efficient optical system that looks a bit like this. We have our LED that shines a lot of infrared light that is then caught by our condenser lens and converged into a Fresnel stack. Because by putting two lenses on top of each other, you can make them bend the light very sharply into this projection lens that then spreads it out across a big surface like you can see in the station. So, with all our optics, electronics, speakers, projection surfaces, infrared cameras, software, and then also the whole concept of the story built around it, we can give you an experience tonight at the Delft station. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud to present to you Unseen Echoes.
Hello. Can you see me? Do you even notice me? Passing by. Distracted. Am I seen or unseen?
Thank you, Lars and Lucas, for telling us a little bit about the new media project. I have to say it's been a joy watching it all come to life. My name is Sis Bout, and I am the project manager of the Platform project. So that's the second project that Emergence hosts this year. And together with the Platform team, I've been working on the enclosed installation that some of you might have already visited. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how this installation came into being, and especially why we made it, and why we made it the way that it is. And in our conceptual process, one of the key elements was communication. And I'm sure that this is something that's all familiar to you, but we've did endless amounts of brainstorming and discussing and trying to convey all of our thoughts and emotions in a way that was understandable for everybody. And for a lot of people, this is something that is pretty ordinary, whether it's in their working life, in their social life, and chats and meetings like those play a crucial part in the way that we find ourselves in our lives and involve ourselves with the people around us. But it is only when interactions like these become impossible that we are really faced with just how crucial they really are. Because if you are no longer able to communicate, you are also unable to connect, and to connect with the people all around you, but also to share experiences and find your way through the world. So that is why today, with you, we want to explore a world where conversations like these are anything but ordinary. Because that is the world that people with locked-in syndrome face. Locked-in syndrome, or LIS, is a rare neurological condition that leaves patients completely paralyzed. Except for ever so slight vertical eye movements and blinking, they are not only unable to move, but unable to speak as well. And these people are fully conscious, so they have thoughts and feelings and emotions. They just have no possibility to act on those feelings or to convey those thoughts with the people around them. And today, with our installation, we wanted to accomplish two things. We wanted to first share with all of you just how incredibly big the struggle is for people with locked-in syndrome, and how hard it is to be able to have all of those feelings, but such a big barrier between all of the people all around you. But we also wanted to remind ourselves and all of you of just how special it is that we are able to connect with each other in the way that we do, and that we are uninhibited in sharing our thoughts and expressing ourselves. And in this installation, we want to give you a look inside the head of a locked-in syndrome patient. Her name is Anne. She was here earlier today, and we were lucky enough for her to experience the installation and also share how she was feeling about it, because she has recovered. So after a year-long struggle of being in a locked-in state, she is now once again able to move and to speak and to hold interviews, just like the way that she did with all of us. Sorry, I lost it a tiny little bit, and luckily I knew the rest before this. But what we wanted to do with this installation is place you as directly as possible inside her head. Because for that year that she was in a locked-in state, her memories and her emotions were the strongest thing that she could cling to. So we wanted to use those memories and those emotions as directly as possible. The way we did that was by using EEG technology, because that enabled us to use her actual brain activity. And we conveyed, we had an interview with her, and in that interview we collected a lot of data on those memories, and we extracted emotions from them. So we had this classified set of emotions that we could use as an input for the rest of our installation, to create this space where all of the elements in this space really help you feel what she felt during that time. And what we did with that data was create a water curtain. And a water curtain is this big installation that has different modes or states where it can be in, with different water droplet patterns. And all of those states represent an emotional state of being. For all of the technical details on this, I would like Milan to tell you a little bit more about it later. But for now, I would like to touch upon some of the more conceptual details. And first of all, is why we use this water metaphor so strongly. And for that, we were inspired by a philosopher called Carl Jung. And he had a model of the human psyche, where he modeled the human psyche as an iceberg. And in this iceberg, the tiny tip above the water represents the conscious reality of somebody. And then everything beneath the surface represents the personal or collective subconscious. And in this case, water forms the barrier between these conscious and subconscious realities. And water forms a barrier quite often. You can see it also in nature, where it seems like a river is almost impossible to cross. In our installation, we wanted to involve such a seemingly uncrossable barrier. And that is why, in our installation, water represents the barrier between your internal thoughts and your external interactions. And through the presence of mist in the installation space, water becomes this all-encompassing presence that connects everybody and everything inside of it. And there are some sound elements as well. I'll leave them to you to experience for yourselves, but just know that sound was one of the most important senses for Anne during the time that she spent locked in. Because if you can only lay there and listen, I'm sure that you can imagine how important that becomes. I would like to introduce Anne to you, as well as the rest of my team, and for that we've prepared a short video. Afterwards, our data engineer, Milan van Roesel, will tell you a little bit more about the technical details of our installation. Thank you.
Hello there. I'm writing to you because I can. Through these words, I will tell you a story. It is our way of communication.
Sometimes I really like just the small connections. So when I'm in a supermarket and just greeting some people, or like the cashier waving me goodbye.
Ik kan niet meer controleren wanneer ik zacht wil huilen of wanneer dat ik heel hard wil huilen. Het was gewoon altijd hard. Alleen dan zonder geluid. Op het begin was dat heel frustrerend. Dat je eigenlijk denkt, ja maar ik wil ook meedoen met dit gesprek. Ik wil ook reageren.
I think what surprised me most is that you had such a different take on this art and tech. Like it's so much more human-based. While you can make something really cool and really impressive, but if you can make someone feel something with it, that's something really special.
Een hele grote les die ik eruit heb gehaald en die ik nog steeds probeer over te brengen is niet opgeven. Je kan meer dan dat je denkt. Dus gewoon doorgaan, niet stoppen.
Shedding light on disconnection, making you feel enclosed.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Milan van Roesel, and I am the data engineer of the platform project. During the interview, from which a fragment you just saw, we wanted to not only record Anne's voice, but we also measured her brainwaves. And we wanted to transfer these brainwaves to an emotion and use this in our installation. Today I'm going to tell you how we did just this. The device you saw sitting on her head is this device, the Unicorn Hybrid Black from G-Tech. And the Unicorn Hybrid Black is a device that is used for the medical procedure called electroencephalography, or EEG for short. And EEG is a medical procedure in which you can measure the electrical activity of your brain. And electrical activity, you might ask. Well, allow me to explain. Your brain exists out of billions of brain cells, and these brain cells are called neurons. And neurons communicate with each other by sending electrical signals or electrical impulses to each other. You can think of these electrical signals as trains riding between train stations that carry information. Neurons are organized in complex networks to produce all brain functions, like the direction of movement, your thoughts, and your feelings. For example, while I'm talking now, the part of my brain that is connected with the direction of movement of my mouth is lighting up. In the scientific literature, we found that there was a connection between data acquired from the EEG cap and emotion. And we wanted to use this conclusion to make a computer program that from EEG data will be able to measure emotions and then later use these emotions, these emotional state, into our installation. But for a computer program to know what it's going to classify between, it has to know what it's classifying. For example, when I want a program that is able to classify apples from pears, I first have to feed it a bunch of images of apples. So over time, it can learn the physical characteristics of an apple. I do the same with a bunch of images of pears, so it can kind of get the model inside its head, inside its chip, so that over time, when it gets this image, it can classify it as an apple. Unfortunately, emotions are not so easily distinguishable like apples and pears. So we need a good model to make this distinction between them. For that, we looked at the model of emotions developed by James Russell. And this model states that every emotion can be divided into two fundamental dimensions. On one hand, you have the positivity or negativity of an emotion, and on the other hand, you have the amount of arousal that an emotion has. And I see some faces in the audience lighting up, but I have to disappoint you, it is not that kind of arousal. It can be more seen as the energy level or stimulation level that an emotion has. I want to do a raise of hands with you. Please raise your hand if you think that being calm is a positive emotion, and please keep it down if you think it's a negative emotion. Yeah, I agree with you. Most of you held their hand up, and I also think it's a positive emotion. Now, is the emotion of being calm, is that an emotion that is connected with a high level of arousal or a low level of arousal? Yeah, most of you keep their hands down, and I agree again, it's connected to a low level of arousal. Every emotion that we as a human feel can be put somewhere on this grid. So we took this grid and divided it into 4 parts and decided that our computer program must be able to distinguish between one of these 4 emotions. The emotion of being calm, the emotion of being sad, stressed, and happy. Okay, now we know what our emotion should classify between, but how are we going to give it sort of the images of apples and the images of pears to really get trained? To that end, we developed a calibration interview. And in the calibration interview, we asked specific questions that would really invoke one of these 4 emotions. And how we did this calibration interview, I have to say that this calibration interview was apart from the real interview we did and we used in the installation. But how we did this calibration interview is what I want to do with you now. I'm going to ask you a question that's going to invoke one of these 4 emotional states. And while you're thinking about it for about 10 seconds, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and try in those 10 seconds really think about the emotion at hand. When was the last time in your life that you were truly excited? Thank you. If this was a real calibration interview, you of course all would have the EEG cap on your head. And during those past 10 seconds, we would record that brain data we acquired, put it all together, and feed it to our model. So our model could kind of figure out what it means to be in an emotional state of being happy. Once the program was calibrated with many questions of those 4 emotional states, we could use it in the real interview. And how we then classified the emotions from the real interview and used it with the voice of Anne into the entire experience is something I want to invite for you all self to experience. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Lars, Lucas, Suus, and Milan for telling us about our project. So let's recap today. We talked about how Unseen Echoes opens up the black box of digital bots' influence on public debate. They did that by creating an experience where this digital reality is shown and facilitated to all our audience. We also talked about Enclosed and how they reflected on people experiencing locked-in syndrome and their disconnection from the world. They did that by using Anna's brain input as brain activity as an input. They found a new potential, captivating real emotions and translate it to something that's understandable by others. We also told you about how our mission, how we as Emergence see the potential in art and technology to do something meaningful. And everything has the same goal, facilitates an understanding of complex and hard to explain technologies to the public. But besides the projects we've been talking about today, there's a lot of unseen here as well, because this was the first edition of Team Emergence Delft. And before I want to invite you to the rest of the event, I first want to tell you a bit about the founding of this story, of this team. Oh, we already said that. Me, Lars, Suus, and Milan. Oh, not Milan. Milan just talked. Nora. Dreamt of a space where art and technology can intersect in our education. We had questions like, what if we put the brightest minds here at the TU Delft and their knowledge into a new perspective? And what if we shed light on the intersection of unusual fields? And why aren't we talking enough about the implication of technologies we're developing here at our own university? So with these questions, we came up with an idea and a plan for some projects. But we needed a place where we can work on these projects. So we went looking around and we found a spot where you can work on your dream, the Dream Hall. And so we went there and asked what we had to do. And they told us about what they do. This is a facility of the TU where ambitious projects can be worked on by intrinsically motivated students. And wanting to be one of those ambitious projects, it meant we had to deliver. So we were fueled by passion, but faced with some serious tasks. Mission statements, team structures, methods. A long list we had to work out before we could pitch our idea. And after hours, days, months of working and writing, we went to our pitch. But around the same time, we started questioning if our passion even resonated with other students. So we did what every student does here at the TU, and we just hanged some posters with a QR code on them, asking if people were even interested in intersecting arts and technology at our university. And the response was incredible. A lot of students actively showed curiosity. And we wanted to already start in September, and this was around, let's say, I think April, yeah. So we went looking for our first team. We hosted information moments and started the first recruitment process. And with this in hand, we went to our pitch. And all the hard work became worth it because we got a yes. And Dream Team Emergence was a fact. And before I want to continue this story, I want to invite my team up on stage. The team. No, come on. Chaotic. Okay, because this is Team Emergence 1, and the story I was telling about the founding of this team cannot be told without them, because this team worked together. With my team, we laid down the groundwork. We built the structure, and we laid down a foundation that was able to sustain itself, and a foundation where future emergence teams can work on. Because, and sorry, I'm just too happy that you guys. I'm proud of my team because in the beginning of the semester, where we were just acquaintances with different studies, with different backgrounds and different personalities, we became really good friends. And I want to say thank you to my team because I feel a lot of admiration and pride towards them because they made the collaboration grow and they let it blossom, showing how real interdisciplinary work should look like, even transcending the original vision. Because an identity was formed and a community was born, one where open discussions were held and critical questions were asked, and one where we could build on each other's expertises. I feel a lot of admiration towards them, and therefore I want to thank my team. And with my team, we want to thank you, because the story of Emergence was not there without you. We want to thank our friends, family, and parents for supporting us. We want to thank all our partners who contributed financially and substantially. We want to thank Anne for sharing her beautiful story with us. We want to thank Teun and the team of Highlight Delft for giving us a podium to exhibit on. We want to thank all the people who contributed to our crowdfunding, as it really could kickstart our year. And of course, we want to thank the Dream Hall and all the people within them, the Dream Hall staff and the other Dream teams for giving us such a warm welcome. And of course, we want to thank RoboHouse for opening up their doors for us to have this event here. And before I'm going to invite you to our exhibition, I first want to answer the question, what will the future of Emergence look like? Next semester, with a new team, we're going to work on opening up different black boxes. We're going to open up the black box of quantum, answering questions like, how can we make quantum technologies more approachable, and how can we make nanoscale into human scale? We're also going to open up the black box of algorithms using a 4D sound system, answering questions like how can we translate organic intelligence or evolutionary intelligence into artificial intelligence. With a new team, we're going to face new challenges, reflecting on impact of technologies, develop more new media, and visualize the unseen. But for now, this is Team Emergence 1. See the unseen. welcome. We should go a bit like this. For the photo. For the photo.
All right, yes. All right, everyone. Well, your host is back. No, that was a joke. I hope you really enjoyed listening to our presentations, and now we're going to move to the second part of this, this exhibition event. So we're going to remove all the chairs. We'll start from the back to the front. So stay seated, please, because otherwise it gets a real mess. We're a lot of people in here, so. Let's do it easy. And then we have another chance to go into the installation enclosed, so do that, maybe for the second time. We have a mini exhibition here in the right corner. Grab a drink again, grab some popcorn, have a talk with each other. We all have our name tags with a personal question, so ask those questions because we really love to talk about Emergence a lot, so please do that with us. And at 5, then we're all going to leave because then we're going to go to the station, to the other exhibition, Unseen Echoes. So yeah, I hope you really liked it, and maybe another applause for the team and for the presentation. People presented today. All right, then we're going to start remove the chairs, and thank you, everyone.